And my special guest today is none other than Meghan Trainor.
Hi.
Listen, let me tell you a little about her before we start talking to her. She first made history with her diamond-certified smash single, All About That Bass. And the award-winning singer-songwriter has garnered a Grammy Award and achieved 8 multi-platinum singles and 2 platinum albums, sold out 3 world tours, penned multi-platinum hits for peers across pop and country, and received countless industry awards and nominations. Expanding her influence on pop culture, she starred on Fox's hit series The Four, Battle for Stardom, and is currently on the superstar coaching panel of ITV's The Voice UK alongside Sir Tom Jones, will.i.am, and Ollie Murs. Meghan, how are you?
Hi.
How's that for an intro?
That was incredible. That was my dreams. Wow. Yeah. I mean, if you're all listening out there and you don't know, I'm the biggest Dr. Phil fan in the world. So this was like my birthday dreams and a bucket list for me, just to get to talk to you for an hour is pretty sick. And hearing you say all those words, like, my heart just stopped for a minute and now it's back.
Listen, think about that. You've done a lot of stuff.
It's crazy how you can like forget all that too, or forget a lot of it. And like, I mean, this is like, it's crazy because like you're my favorite person ever. And they're like, what would you ask Dr. Phil when you get to talk to him? And I'm like, the only thing I could think of is like, hey, how do I be not so critical on myself? Like when you read all that stuff, I just like forget it all. And I go back to like, no, you're not good enough. Be better and work on yourself every single day.
You've been pretty transparent about your feelings, anxiety, depression, the doubts that we started talking about in the beginning. Have people talked to you about that? Having your fans and stuff like that? Because seems to me to be hugely inspirational. Because people look at you and say, if she can talk about this, deal with this and overcome it, then I can.
Yeah. I just like was uneducated about all of it. And my parents were too. Like when I heard anxiety, I thought people would just be stressed out. And I just didn't know what it could actually physically do to your body. And after the vocal surgeries and I remember it was a month after my vocal surgery, they scheduled an Ellen performance. And I was like, guys, I'm not going to make it. They're like, we'll be okay. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. And I was so scared that in my vocal like training, getting back into it, I had days to get ready. I was bawling my eyes out. And I think it started then. And I started getting the physical feelings where you feel like you want to run to the bathroom, or your back is lit by a flame, or you have a fever and your temperature's fine. Like, you know, those physical things where you're like, it's crippling. Like I can't get through work today because my body's dying on me and I don't know what's going on. So one night I kept being like, there's something wrong with me, but I'll figure it out. And one night after dinner, I thought I was having an allergic reaction, and I went to the emergency room and was like, my throat's closing.
Panic attack.
And they were like, okay, so we've checked you out and this is what we call a panic attack. And I was like, no. If you just look right
yeah, just look in here.
It's closing. And the sweet guy was so nice to me. He felt so bad because he knew I was just clueless. And then they tried, my brother was the only person that had panic attacks in my family that talked to me about it. He was like, oh, go to the emergency room. You'll be fine. I've had this. Just don't let them give you Xanax. And I was like, okay. And so I went there and was like, I don't want Xanax. I want the lightest form of anything you can do to help me. And they did. They gave me some very light, I don't know what it was, but it worked and it was fine. And after that, I went to every doctor you could think of except you. I could have probably used you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I went to every doctor and was like, please fix me. And a lot of them promised they would and they couldn't. And then I finally met a psychologist and he said, your chemicals are like this and we got to bring you back to here. And it made me feel so much better. And so like, oh, I'm not going crazy. Like I'm not schizophrenic, because things would start moving. I had like body dissociation or whatever it's called.
Yeah, you get that anxious. People don't realize anxiety is not just a psychological phenomenon. There's a neurological component to it as well.
Yeah.
And the neurotransmitters in your brain get disrupted. And it's like being on a racetrack with no exit ramp. It
Yeah.
just is going and going and going, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. He said stuff that finally made sense. He was like, there's a fire alarm in your head and it's just going off for like no reason. Like, that was like the best thing he could have ever said to me. And I was like, yes, that's how I feel. He's like, when there's like actual danger in front of you and that's how intense it gets, your body's telling you that's happening all day long when it's not. And I was like, cool, fix it. What do we do?
Well, you've got a recorder in your brain called the amygdala.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And
he's so smart.
So it records this, and then whenever you hit that play button, something will trigger it, and it's right there.
My back's on fire. Yeah.
Why is your back on fire?
I don't know. I used to like not be able to talk about it because it would bring it back.
Yeah.
But I feel like I beat it and I accomplished so much and I got back into my soul. It's like my soul left for a minute and now it's back in my body.
Yeah. See, people don't realize we have one arousal system. It's the same system if you're excited at a ball game.
Yeah.
Or if you hear somebody behind you in a dark alley.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're all excited at your wedding. We have one arousal system. It's the same thing, same chemical, same arousal. It's just how you label it. It's exactly the same. If you're at the football game and they score in the last second, yay!
Yeah.
That's exactly the same experience you have when you have a panic attack. You just labeled it differently.
That's crazy.
Isn't that something?
That's crazy. And like what really like was tough going through it was the industry people understood me. Like my lawyer understood me and my management, but my best friends, my family, like my mom didn't know what was happening. She hadn't gone. It felt like for me a mental breakdown. And I guess she's never gone through that. She's always full of anxiety, but she's never had these moments. And when I would text her like, I'm going to the emergency room because I can't breathe again tonight, she'd be like, nah, come here, I'll rub your head. And I was like, no, I need an oxygen tank or I will die. Like, this is it for me. And finally, who's our guy who saved my life? Carson Daly did a video randomly on the Today Show speaking about how he feels when he had a panic attack. And he explained it to the T perfectly. And I texted it to my mom and I was like, this is what I'm going through. And she was like, oh. And then she was like bawling and said, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. And then I realized like, oh, this is what my fans have been talking about for years. And this is what they mean of like, I can't go to school. I'm miserable. And when parents come up to me and say, my kid was so suicidal until your song came out. And I was like, my 3-minute song can fix this, whatever's happening to me. I was like, well, let's write some more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's inspirational because people think they're alone. They think they're the only one experiencing
I felt like
that.
I was the only one and I would be in a, like, I thought I was like losing my mind.
And there's a first link in every chain. And what I always tell people is if you can identify there is a first thing that signals your anxiety or panic attack. It might be flushed cheeks. It might be heat in your back. It might be a sweaty palm. It might be a dry mouth, something. There's some first signal. And if you can figure out what it is, then it can become a cue for coping or a cue for deterioration into panic. But if you have a coping sequence and you hit that, you go, bang, I know what I have to do. I need to do this and this and this and this. The fire never gets started. You put it out while it's just a little flicker and it doesn't ever happen to you.
That's what I've been doing. Like, that's what I figured out and was like, oh, beat it. Got it. Yeah. I feel so much better. And my therapist was like, you should treat yourself. You're killing it. You look great. And I was like, I know. And but it's like my triggers are if I don't get enough sleep. If I don't get enough sleep, my body confuses it with anxiety. And I'm like, no, we're just exhausted. Or I know if they give me the schedule of what's coming up, that was my first panic attack ever. They read me my schedule for the week. And I was like, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. So I tell my mom, because she's my assistant, I'm like, I don't want to talk about work from here on to nighttime. Like, I want to be done for the day. And they're really good about taking care of me like that.
And the whole thing is you have to finish that sequence by rewarding yourself and saying, that just came on. I did that.
Yes.
I nailed that. You got to give yourself
That's
credit. You got to say it
crazy.
out loud.
Yeah. I feel like we don't get to talk about that like as much, you know?
No.
Everyone's talking about how spooky and scary it is and how everyone's going through it. Even like children are going through it. But like, I don't know. Like in the moment, I was like, there's another person in here and they're torturing me and I've done nothing wrong and I don't know why this is happening. But when you can take control again, you're like, that's really cool. And I'm proud of myself for getting through that.
Yeah, you got to reward yourself. You repeat behaviors that get rewarded, and you don't repeat behaviors that don't get rewarded. It's just that simple. How do you reward yourself?
I get a massage or I get my nails done or I do like today I was feeling overwhelmed about I'm going to New York to do a bunch of promo and it's going to be like really crazy days. And my husband, he just went through some random weird stuff that doesn't make sense. And it was kind of lame. It's not the worst thing, but it's kind of lame. And he was feeling down. And I noticed I had like 40 minutes before I was going to drive here. And I said, babe, let's escape. Let's go to lunch together. And he took me out to lunch and we went to our favorite restaurant and we just like had a moment together. And he's like, wow, I don't know what it is, but I feel so much better. And it was like we got to escape our world of chaos for a minute and just be together and eat our favorite food. So that felt nice.
Let me ask you about working on it.
Okay.
In the verse, you say, never been asked to dance because I've never been the pretty one. Never like compliments because it's always been so hard to believe in them. You say I'm beautiful and I say you're full of it. Nothing personal. I'm still not used to this.
Isn't that crazy? Bars. Yeah.
What do you think about that when you hear it back?
So sad. But so real. Like I picture each moment, like never been asked to dance. So when we were growing up, we're on this little island and we had school dances and I was like petrified to dance in front of people, but I've always wanted to be a dancer. You know, it's like been the fire in me. And I danced in front of my family, but it was like in front of my peers, my classmates. I was terrified. And this one kid came up to me and he asked me to dance. And he wasn't the coolest kid in school, but I was like, oh my God, he wants to dance with me? Okay. And then after we danced, he ran over to his friends and they were all laughing and they gave him $1. And I went up to him and I was like, what's this? And, I forgot to mention when he came up to me, he said, my grandma passed away. Will you dance with me? And I was like, Jesus, okay. Oh yeah. So he got $1 and they made a bet of like I bet you can't get a dance with anyone. So I was like, I felt like bait. And I was like, oh, man, I thought that moment was like really sweet and special. And it was just like stupid boys. And I've hated school dances ever since. And if I go, I went with my girlfriends and we would just like dance alone and be like, forget everyone else here. And then when my husband would give me compliments, even when I felt like my ugliest, like I know like I'm grungy looking in this moment, he's like, God, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen ever. And I'm like, what are you seeing? Like, I wish I could see with those goggles. Like, what are you looking at? And like, he's truly like, you know how you say people's reality is their reality or whatever? That's
Perception
like,
is reality.
Perception is reality. He's like, I'm the prettiest girl in his world. And I'm like, that's so cool. I wish I saw that. And I work on it and he'll stand in the mirror with me and be like, look how beautiful you are. And I wanted to put it in a song.
They say love sees not with the eyes.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that's what it is. It's like the kid worships me and I worship him just as much. But I've never felt like that. No one's ever looked at me like that. Then I was like, we should get married.
You better keep this one.
Better keep this one around.
Yeah.
He's a good one. He's great.